There we go. Says this meeting is being live streamed.
Hey, everybody. Sorry I couldn't respond right away. We are having a little bit of technical difficulties, but it looks like it's working. I'm just waiting for the YouTube stream. Great. And then let
We
me
have
just hit the record button.
a big Zoom window in the middle of our screen. Can you see that?
I cannot see that.
Okay, so we were wondering if you have control over. I don't see any laptop or anything, a mouse or anything that we can handle here. Are you in control? So if an audience member wants to interact, are you able to hear from the public? Do you have those controls, I'm assuming, over the
Yeah.
meeting?
Yep, I do. All right, Chairman Kennedy, we're ready when you are.
Okay, well, let's get this started. And this is a special meeting, the Seldovia City Council, Tuesday, December 13th at 5 p.m. We'll start with roll call. Rojas,
Here.
Sweat,
Here.
Heatley,
Here.
Peyton,
Here.
and Kennedy is here. Okay, so we have two excused absences tonight. Mayor Campbell and Councilmember Swick. Take a minute here and stand and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Peyton and a second by Keithley. Do we have any other further discussion or objections? Nothing online there, no. Okay, seeing no other further discussions, let's go ahead and vote on the motion. Rojas,
Aye.
Peyton,
Aye.
Sweat,
Aye.
and Keithley. Motion passes. We have no consent agenda this evening. Mayoral proclamations, none. Public presentation prior notice. Each presenter has up to 10 minutes, none. Public presentation for items not on the agenda. Public has 3 minutes each. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak? You see any hands there? Do you see any hands, Rachel?
No,
I don't see
Chairman
any.
Kennedy, I'm not seeing any hands at this time.
Okay. Advisory board reports, none. Administrative reports, none. Public hearing, none. Unfinished business, none. New business. Item N, new business city manager reviews. And do we have any other issues, Rachel, that we need to attend to before our phone call here? Any
Not
other
that I
discussion?
can- Not that I can tell Chairman Kennedy. I'll go forward with giving each candidate a brief overview of the process, and then we'll ask the questions as council requested per each candidate, and I'll make sure that there's a timer set to 25 minutes so that folks know when there's 5 minutes left for the interview. And each candidate is allotted 30 minutes, and there's a 15-minute break between each interview. And I do not see the first candidate, Amy Morgan. I don't see a phone number or a name on at this time, and I asked her to be
that
on
her
3 to
signing
5
on
minutes
there?
before the interview slot.
The third one, they just. Okay, well, we'll take a few minutes here and wait and see if, did I miss something? Oh, okay.
Just be easier.
Yeah, right. Okay. Thank you, Bobby.
And I'm sure council saw too in your packet for tonight's meeting that there are 4 sets of the interview questions so that you can take notes during each interview process.
Do we have a way
And
of
then-
contacting through the chair, Rachel? Do we have a way of contacting our candidates if they're not on time? Maybe they're also having technical difficulties and we can just reach them via phone instead of internet?
So through the chair, each candidate was given both the Zoom link as well as call-in info, and just asked not to turn their videos on because it's an audio only interview for this first interview. And I also provided each candidate with my cell phone number in case they experienced any technical difficulties, and I do have my phone right next to me. So we'll see if our first candidate shows up.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Amy, is that you? So I see one call-in number, Chair Kennedy, and we did
Right.
ask them to unmute. I think with Zoom, if you hit that *6, I believe that allows you to unmute.
Is it something I need to do here on this end, Rachel?
I don't think so. So Amy, if you can hear us, try hitting *6 to see if that would allow you to speak because we can't hear you.
There you go. Try it
How
now.
is that?
I think,
Perfect. We can hear you.
yes.
Okay, good.
Well, hi there, Amy. Thank you so much for joining the City of Soldovia for the first round of interviews for the city manager position. We have Chairman John Kennedy and council members Bobby Sweat, Harmony Payton, Ashley Keithley, and Vivian Rojas in attendance this evening. For the interview, there will be 12 questions and you will be allotted 30 minutes to answer those questions. I will have a timer on for 25 minutes. So when you hear the timer go off, there will be 5 minutes remaining for your interview. Do you have any questions before we begin?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay. So our first question, what do you know about Soldovia and how do you see yourself adapting to this type of community?
Well, I have owned a house in Soldovia since January of 2021. And we've spent some time over there back and forth. And, you know, Soldovia is just one of the most charmful places I've ever been to. And I've been to a lot of places worldwide. And I think that, you know, it's really got a lot of character, and it's really just a lovely place to be as far as I'm concerned. I do enjoy the aspect of it being rural, and that it does take a little bit of like, not navigation's the word, travel to get there. And I think that's part of the charm of the place, of Soldovia itself. The community seems absolutely wonderful. Everybody's very tight knit. People seem to be really focused on, people just seem to really love where they live. And that to me is, it's just something that the only way that I can really explain how I feel about Soldovia is that I absolutely adore Soldovia. And the first time I went over there 17, 18 years ago now, I had told my husband, we came over on our honeymoon, and I was like, I want to live here someday. And we've slowly made progress to making that a dream come true. And I do realize that it's a fishing. There's a lot of economic things in regards to fishing, tourism, and yeah. It's just, I don't know, that Soldovia just has a place. There's a place in my heart for Soldovia. So I don't know really what else to add to that question.
Thank you, Amy. Have you reviewed our annual budget? And if so, what is your impression of our financial condition?
Yes, I have reviewed that. I do believe that there may need to be some review and some things that might need to be looked at to pull us into budget, because it seems like we're a little out of balance. But I would I would have to sit down and look at it further to figure out where there are discrepancies and issues that lie, so that I could get a fuller scope of what we might be able to do to remedy the deficit that we have right now. But I do think it is a possibility, and I do think it's something that can be achieved.
Thank you. So question number 3, how has your prior work or education helped you prepare for this job? And please describe a major accomplishment.
Okay. So I have over 13 years of managerial experience. My first 3 years of managerial experience were while I was in the military, in the Navy. And I actually was put in managerial positions when I was not making managerial position pay. They put me in charge of, a lot of it I had to actually deal with creating smooth work environments, and conditions are always changing in the military, especially when you're in a management position. Crews where I was working were overturning quite a bit because people were being called into it was not like voluntary duty, but you had to do a specific amount of duty where I worked. And so therefore we had quite a bit of turnover on about a 6-month rotation. So I was constantly learning how to deal with different types of conflicts, creating different resolutions for that. And also, with the military being the military, there was a lot of governmental procedures and things that I rather enjoy. I do like the structure, and I miss the structure of government. But I also feel that that my roles that I had to do in while I was in the military during wartime set me up for adapting to any kind of anything that's put in front of me. I can adapt to, and it's fairly easy for me. Now I am actually a vice president of a corporation. I spend a majority of my time doing lots of book work, but a majority of my time I spend doing, I have to bid jobs, I have to negotiate prices and negotiate job scopes. I have a very, I spend a lot of time on negotiating and dealing with contractors, the city and the state. I have to stay in code compliance, be sure we're in code compliance, project management, and dealing with dealing with the city planners and inspectors. And I also work alongside certain, state agencies. You have to do deal with DEC, state inspection agencies, corporate compliances, and just basically following all statutes. My biggest accomplishment that I would say business-wise, would actually be, we had a project for some customers that was quite a large project. And there were a lot of issues and problems that came up when dealing with DEC because they were on a floodplain. And we managed to figure out how to make sure that we were in compliance so that they could legally have their septic tank in a floodplain, and also helping make sure that there was plenty of there was a lot of testing and water testing and things that we had to take care of, and those customers actually became very regular customers and long-term customers for us, and they were actually very, I don't know, grateful would be the word. They're very kind about how they felt about what we did. And it was a lot of legwork, but it was a big accomplishment for a job that was quite large. It ended up being, by the end, ended up being a $1.5 million job. So, yeah.
Thank you, Amy. What do you view as the most important quality a city manager should possess, and why?
I think the most important quality a city manager should possess, you have to be able to speak to people. You have to be able to have people feel as though they're seen and heard. I think that is extremely important, besides all the logistical things and all the things that keep a city running. The human part of that, I believe, is very important. And I would like to, I think that I would like to be a person that somebody could come and talk to if they are worried about something. But also at the same time, I do believe that you need to be able to not take things personally when it comes to people's unhappiness or disagreements, because that's also important. Perhaps you could call it having a thick skin, or but that's just part of basic management anyways. You need to be able to listen to people and what they're upset about, and not take any of it personally, but also be able to hear them and be able to convey a solution. So.
Okay, question number 5. In your opinion, what role should the administrator have in the community?
What was that again? That didn't come through clearly.
Oh, I'm sorry. In your opinion, what role should the administrator have in the community?
What rule of law? Is that what you? It cut out again. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
No worries. Role, ROLE. What role should the administrator have in the community?
The role. Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. I think, or the administrator. I think that I think that being involved in the community is very important. I do think that um, that the administrator should have a um, you need to be the role is to sit is to be oh that's you need to be able to communicate between the people of the city and the city council and manager, and be able to communicate the things that need to happen. If they come and ask a question about, say, permit, you need to be able to effectively communicate what kind of permits they need. You also need to be able to effectively be the middleman between the city itself and the council and the mayor. Effective communication between the two is vital to a city running properly. And that's what I think. I think that it's all about communicating and making sure that also the job is to make sure that things are getting taken care of, to make sure that all the projects are running thoroughly, to make sure that city or your team is effectively doing what they're delegated to do, but also at the same time, if they need help, you need to be able to help them. Also, being able to recognize when projects need to be discussed and revisions of budgets and things like that need to happen. And just being sure that the city runs smoothly so that everything is good and everybody, I mean, not everybody's going to be happy, but that the community is getting what they need.
Thank you, Amy. So question number 6, please describe your understanding of the state's economic position and how that relates to small communities such as ours. Please correlate your response to how you view the role of city government in keeping the cost of government down while providing essential services to residents.
So the state, okay. Our job would be to go, the state does have an integral part in city government because they're above the city government, but it's the city's job to make sure that they go and inquire and ask the state for say, funding for roads, funding for like sewer and water and, you know, vital things that the community and or city needs. It's important that the city can recognize where they need to go to the state and ask the state for funding, which would be in forms of grants. I do believe that the state, I know that they maintain some of the roads already, and the policing up on the hill. But as a city, we need to be able to maintain that ourselves at a normal capacity. If there are any kind of emergency orders or anything, it's our responsibility to go and request that the state issues the emergency orders, you know, if in case of there being some sort of tragedy, as you know, like a hurricane or something along those lines that would cause devastation. I do believe that we need to be in communication with the state about the things that we do need, and asking our senators and or the governor for things that need to be addressed.
Thank you, Amy. So question number 7, please tell us about one mistake you made in a previous job and how you handled it.
Oh, that. So I, at one point during my naval career, I made a mistake of getting a they call them FSAs, but it was actually finding an assistant to help me in the captain's quarters. And my mistake was that I did not use my intuition, and I did not see the signs of her she was a thief. And so part of my job requirement was to make sure that all of the officers' belongings were accounted for and not missing, because you know we were in direct contact with the officers' quarters, which is it's a pretty big deal. And I regretted asking for her to be my assistant, because I did realize after time that she had started stealing, and I took responsibility for that. And I did actually have to go and turn her in, which was not necessarily a very easy thing to do, because it was, yeah. And so, but in taking responsibility for that, I have been very adamant about making sure that I'm paying attention to the signs of how I spend a lot more time paying attention to the person themselves. And I tried to figure out how I would have gone about making sure that that doesn't ever happen again. So I did, I was very careful the second time around, and I paid a lot more attention, and I actually ended up with a very, very competent person the second time around. And that, so yeah. Yeah, I did. I took the blame for it, and I wasn't reprimanded because they understood that it wasn't actually me, but I did make a mistake in hiring the wrong person, and try to never do that again. So.
Thank you, Amy. And I just wanted to let you know we've hit the 25-minute mark. So you have 5 minutes left remaining in the interview. I'm sorry to interrupt. Did you still want to add some more to that question?
No, I'm good.
Okay, so we're now on to question number 8. How do you educate, encourage, and motivate your staff?
Well, I personally, I like to sit down, and I like staff meetings. So I prefer staff meetings when it comes to education. If somebody needs to learn something or they're having a difficult time with something, I can sit them down, and I would like to talk with them and figure out where they're having the problem so that we can walk their way through it. When it comes to encouragement, I think rooting people on, and when people do good things, you need to acknowledge that they're doing good things. When people are being great, you need to acknowledge they're being great. And acknowledgement goes a long way. So I think that spending time acknowledging the positives and the things that people are doing properly, and then things that need to be worked on, just sit down and have a talk and figure out where things are not clicking. So yeah.
Okay, question number 9. Please describe your experiences with grant writing and management of grants.
Grant writing is something that I do not have a whole lot of experience with. I learned a lot about grant writing when I was in college. I learned how to write a detailed grant in college, but that's one thing that I definitely would spend some time educating myself on, and taking classes and making sure that I am fully aware and vested in writing proper grants and finding the proper sources for that.
Thank you, Amy. So question number 10, what do you hope to accomplish in your first year as city manager and your 5th year? Please provide a 5-year outlook for yourself and for Seldovia.
Well, in my first year, I would more than likely, that's what I would do, was spend time getting to know all of the city, all of the staff, all of the regulations, and making sure I'm well versed in everything that I need to be well versed in. I'm an extremely fast learner, so things like that they're like butter. I enjoy them. But I'm hoping by the 5th year, I can have a balanced budget and I can have all of the things that Seldovia needs to create more of a economic impact, added tourism, things that, more added tourism, hopefully added jobs, more incentives for people to come over while retaining the small town charm, because I think that is extremely important. And retaining the cultural aspect of Seldovia itself. I think that is an achievable goal.
Thank you, Amy. And there are 20 seconds left in your interview. So we're going to conclude your interview this evening with the City of Seldovia. Thank you so much for sharing your time with the council. And if there's anything else you would like to add before we can conclude, you have that opportunity.
I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to apply and have an interview for this job. I really love Seldovia, and I would like to be able to make it my full-time residency. So I hope everybody has a good night.
Thank you, Amy. We'll be in touch.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay there. Does anybody need to take a break before our next interview? Got about 15 minutes here.
Why are there 15 minutes? Why are there 15 minutes between each interview? I'm assuming we're not discussing each interview in between, correct?
Correct.
And this is an open meeting right now being recorded.
Correct.
So anytime we talk needs to be on this thing, correct?
Correct.
Just keeping myself on track.
Through the chair, Councilmember Payton, the extra time was budgeted for technical difficulties. I mean, just to avoid overlap with the candidates, I was encouraged to make sure that we had some buffer time between each candidate.
Thanks, Rachel. That makes sense. I'm just fidgety. That's not your fault. Thank you for
Who's
that.
gonna win the 15 minutes of the silent game? Not me.
Rachel, or actually, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Through to Rachel, I was wondering if I have a suggestion, and I'm not sure if I missed it when you're asking questions. Perhaps when we get halfway through, you did tell them that they have 25 minutes, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then maybe we should say when they're halfway through, that we're halfway through the interview and we're on question whatever number, just so they know. I think, if there's a pause very long, they feel like they need to keep talking. So maybe just so it runs a little bit smoother, would that be okay, Rachel? Do you agree or disagree with that?
I could do that for sure.
Okay, thank you. So we've got till 6:15 for our next candidate, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you, John.
Yep.
Okay, Chairman Kennedy and Council, it looks like we do have a Mr. Donald Braun in attendance. I'm gonna allow him to speak.
Okay. There he is. Can you hear us, Donald?
Is this, yes, I can hear you.
This is Councilman Kennedy. Rachel, our Freelander will be asking the interview questions tonight. Do you have any questions for us before we proceed?
No,
Okay, Rachel.
Thank you, Chairman Kennedy, and also thank you, Donald, for joining the City of Seldovia for the first round of interviews for the city manager position. We have Chairman John Kennedy and council members Bobby Sweat, Harmony Payton, Ashley Keithley, and Vivian Rojas in attendance this evening. For the interview, there will be 12 questions, and you will be allotted 30 minutes to answer those questions. I will have a timer on for 25 minutes, so when you hear the timer go off, there will be 5 minutes remaining for your interview. And it sounds like you do not have any questions for us before we begin, so I will get the timer started here and ask you the first question. So question number 1, what do you know about Seldovia and how do you see yourself adapting to this type of community?
I know Seldovia started out as a fishing place, and I'm kind of used to fishing place, having lived in Togiak and Chignik, also Dutch Harbor or Unalaska. So I'm used to being in a small place and operating within it and getting capital projects and just normal, day-to-day functions done. I have probably not much experience in, running around the trails and things of that of Seldovia. However, I've always found it an attractive place in my visits there.
Okay, question number 2. Have you reviewed our annual budget? And if yes, what is your impression of our financial condition?
I reviewed the budget. I did not review too much more of the overall financial position because of you said that it was somewhat precarious, and until I look at the documents, I don't know how to deal with it. And I guess maybe that's the old banker in me. But I think, I think most things are soluble, I guess, with a little bit of work. I don't think I mentioned it, but anyway, when I was with the SBA as a loan officer, I had the entire 1964 earthquake portfolio to deal with in 1984 because the loans were 30-year amortization loans, but a 20-year call. And so I had to restructure hundreds of loans, or else I had to write them off. So the nuances of the documents will probably tell me which way I have to go.
Thank you, Donald. Question number 3, how has your prior work or education helped you prepare for this job? Please describe a major accomplishment.
Would you repeat the first phrase of that question?
You bet. How has your prior work or education helped you prepare for this job? Please describe a major accomplishment.
I think starting in reverse, my major accomplishment was getting the harbor in Chignik because there was a written Corps of Engineers decision saying that it couldn't be done. But I got it reversed, and now there's a harbor in Chignik. And some of you may be familiar with it, I don't know. My education is in public management. My degree is in public management. I think it says social science, but it was really public management. And so I've done that. And then I've, like I say, I've been a manager in remote communities. I was a business manager in Unalaska and Dutch Harbor, And then I was the city administrator in Togiak, city administrator in Chignik, and then the borough manager in Yakutat. The major projects, probably that was the major project. Some of the other projects were fishing related when I worked together with the people, but it was the answer to my query that, like I say, got the codfish fishery for communities from Cordova to Akutan or beyond. So that's sort of the commercial fishing side. On the city of Seldovia has largely been a tourist economy. I worked for Big Red's Flying Service, sorting out their books. The owner of Big Red's was the dean of business at the community college before it was just merged into the University of Alaska Anchorage campus. And he was the one that hired me because he owned that business. So I guess I impressed the dean of business. But I don't think that, each city, I don't think that my general experience is necessarily specific to any one thing, but it probably is specific to some of the aspects of the problems and opportunities of the city of Seldovia.
Thank you, Donald. Question number 4. What do you view as the most important quality a city manager should possess and why?
Making myself clear to the people to whom I have to answer to, which is the citizenry and obviously the council. That's the most important thing.
Okay,
The analytical
question-
stuff would be part of that because you have to be able to analyze to answer succinctly.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Donald. Do you have anything else you'd like to add to that question?
No.
Okay, question number 5. In your opinion, what role should the administrator have in the community?
I think probably the best description I heard from someone else is that you have to lead from behind. I have to understand the nuances and the values of the community, and then adapt my management style to that. I don't know if there's any overarching thing, and I don't, it's kind of like de Tocqueville described the formation of communities and societies in America, where he said that the basic township cedes a little bit of power to the county in this case, or the borough in this case, and then the borough cedes power to the state. I believe that's the way we should operate. I'm not saying we can do that because of all the bureaucracies involved, but I think that we have to keep that in mind, that the rubber meets the road at the community level.
Okay, question number 6, and this is halfway through the questions. Please describe your understanding of the state's economic position and how that relates to small communities such as ours. Please correlate your response to how you view the role of city government in keeping the cost of government down while providing essential services to residents.
The first part dealt with the state, and I don't know how much the current budget has been modified to deal with community relations. Interestingly enough, I just talked to Tim Benettini and Ryan McKee, both of them. Well, Tim Benettini is a retired legislative aide, and Ryan McKee is a current legislative aide. But normally I talk to those people rather than the legislators themselves, because the aides get things done. When I lobbied Congress for $5 million for the Chignik Harbor, I never even saw Stevens or Murkowski or Don Young. I just talked to the aides. I didn't even care about seeing those people. In other words, I guess I'm kind of a basic person. As far as the second part of the question, dealt with the city budget. And I think that I remember reviewing the city budget, and I thought it was on track, and it was doable. As far as keeping costs down, I guess in the past, the best I can tell you is that I have never had a bad audit in the roughly 15 years of being audited as the administrator or the manager of a city. And I think it's the age-old process, really, of just watching your pennies, just like a business.
Thank you, Donald. Question number 7, please tell us about one mistake you made in a previous job and how you handled it.
Geez, the one that came to mind, I think, was we had to get a bunch of samples for riprap for the Chignik Harbor. And so I'd gotten a dump truck, and then I had some of the locals drive it that didn't have CDLs or the Bush type CDL. And because it was over 26,000 pounds. And one guy had, I don't know, it was some sort of minor wreck. And then the local VPSO gave him a ticket, and then we had to work it. So anyway, what I did was essentially bought him off. And then the other big one was Chignik had a commitment to, Chignik is kind of a divided, the city of Chignik on Chignik Bay, or it's called Chignik Bay, has a divided community. There's a power plant. The Chignik city has a power plant that serves only one portion of the community. The other portion beyond the cliffs that is closer to the boat harbor and the airport had no power, even though it was guaranteed to them many, many years ago. There was a palpable threat that the guys over there, or the people who resided on that side of the cliffs, were going to sue to, like a writ of mandamus, to sue for the city based on old commitments. And instead of paying the lawyers $100,000 to defend the suit, which I estimated would be the litigation costs, I just built the power plant for about that much, and a distribution facility. And so we had the money in the budget, in the power plant budget. It was an enterprise fund. And so I hired a bright guy, and then he and I grabbed there's a book of standards for rural utilities, and we just worked out from that and designed and built a power system. And then a couple of years later, the Alaska Village Electrical Cooperative came through their engineers. I think his name was Tietzel. And he said, yeah, it works. And it's been working ever since. And the state in the next community over, which is Chignik Lagoon, did a power project that served the same number of people for $500,000. But they did have one impediment. They had to dig around an airport. So that wasn't there, they have to give them slack on that they had an extra impediment that costs more money to deal with. But anyway, those are the two kind of, the first one was a mistake in not anticipating the will of that section of the community. And then the second one was just kind of a minor mistake with a dump truck hitting something, and then just making sure that I paid off people, but it was within the budget and ameliorated the whole situation. So I guess I answered that question twice. I'm sorry.
No problem. Thank you, Donald. We're now on to question number 8. How do you educate, encourage, and motivate your staff?
I think I remember doing that with and you might have had the same experience with my financial manager when I was the borough manager in Yakutat. And she didn't the auditors required that we allocate interest by whatever fund generated the interest. And she did not know how to do that. And so we just sat down and we went through the process of just step by step of how to work out those, to how to allocate the interest to the proper accounts, and then how to combine that and give an overall picture of those earnings or that revenue stream. But it's things like that, just give the person the basics and then sort of let them run. It's sort of the basic education technique that everybody has to learn. If I I used to be a firefighter and had a credential in teaching fire science, and the basic steps are always going to be the same: motivation, presentation, application, and evaluation. Just go through those steps, but the important thing is to make sure that the application is very clearly done and fixed in the mind of the student or the professional with whom you're working. And then and there's going to be mistakes made, but just you don't have to be breathing over the person's shoulder to you have to give them a little bit of slack.
Thank you, Donald. Question number 9, please describe your experiences with grant writing and management of grants.
Grant writing is, I think, I don't know, I think I found out that I got about 70% of my grants or something like that. I did a couple grants for sewer and water projects in the old PHS days that anticipated the grants that, oh gosh, I can't think of that guy's name, that he wrote. And then I just submitted it to him, and then he ran those through. So I'm fairly successful with those grants. Obviously, I got grants from the state and the borough for the Chignik Harbor, and I got a small grant from Bernie Richard, was that called Economic Development Administration, and it was for, I think I used that for the buying equipment to build the harbor, and also to in place that the poles and things of that electrical system that another guy and I built. That was in Chignik too. I finished off I administered the grants for the harbor in Yakutat, and it was a pretty big project, but I didn't develop it, so I wasn't familiar with it, but yet I had to administer it. It was the flood control project in Togiak. It was a fairly big, it was fairly involved with a bunch of canals and drainage ditches and stuff like that.
Okay, question number 10. What do you hope to accomplish in your first year as city manager and your 5th year? Please provide a 5-year outlook for yourself and for Seldovia.
The first year will be probably to squeeze the budget. I imagine that's going to be, and then learn the community, because the values of the community is what, how you have to make the allocations in various budget categories, or to develop the categories for your budget. And then I think you have to expand. You have to, the basic duty of a manager is to just always look forward. So the next thing you have to do is to see which way the community is going, and that just means a lot of community involvement and paying attention, and then allocate or set up the allocations or the the various line items with respect to those values and those, and also, I guess, looking at Anchorage right now for a lot of snow coverage, those kinds of things. But anyway, you have to have reserves, obviously, and then the basic thing is to see which way the economy is going and promote that. Make it easy for the businesses to survive and get out of their way for the most part. And that'll be the 5-year plan. It's all contingent on the first year plan, really, because staying close and learning is probably it's basic. It's so fundamental that you can't really avoid it.
Thank you, Donald. Question number 11. What are your expectations of the governing body in relation to yourself and other staff?
I think the governing body has the right to ask everything of me. I'd appreciate it probably if they would ask me first if they want to involve themselves with staff, unless it's kind of like some sort of a investigation where I'm going off track. But I really don't have any problem with that otherwise. But in official capacity, it's good to probably have a unitary way of dealing with things that are external or that involve the city fathers and mothers. But I really don't have, it doesn't give me any heartburn to have citizens and everybody else ask one or another person that's on the city staff to what's going on. That never does bother me. I think they have a right to know.
Thank you, Donald. That concludes questions 1 through 11. And question 12 is there anything else you'd like us to know before we conclude this interview?
Oh, there'd be a ton of things I'd like to know if in many respects, because that's what my job is, to learn what the community is and where it's going, and then make sure that we can go that way. And make sure that other people have the input. It wouldn't be certainly me alone. It would be, it'd be in cooperation with the people of the community. And then keeping in mind, I have to keep in mind in which way the higher powers are going to go in terms of the people in the borough and the state. But the most fundamental thing is just worry about the people that are around you, because that's your basic responsibility to them.
Well, thank you, Donald, so much for joining us this evening as part of the city manager interview process. We'll be in touch with you soon, and thank you again for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Donald.
Thank you, guys. Yeah. Let's see, Rachel, this Zoom thing I don't know. Normally you have a video feed. I don't see where it's on there. Oh, well. Are you still there?
Yes, we're still here.
Oh, okay. Oh, there you are. I don't know. I couldn't see you. Anyway, well, thank you very much again. I guess I should do that. I'm sorry I wasn't dressed for the occasion. I just got through doing some plumbing in my bathroom, changing valves.
Thank you, Nell.
Take care. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, I
Yes.
volunteered to do some vacuuming for the librarian. So instead of doing that after the meeting, I'm just going to do that now.
Okay,
I'll go ahead and leave my phone here since it's still an open meeting. I'll just close that door.
okay.
And Chairman Kennedy, our next interview is at 7 p.m. So I'm going to take a quick 10-15 minute break and I'll be back, but I'll have my phone on me in case anything comes up.
Thank you, Rachel.
You bet.
Yeah, we're gonna take a break here. That was much better. Much better.
Hey, everybody, I'm just letting you know that I'm back and I do see our next candidate, Heidi Gagel, on, so we should be able to start right at 7.
Okay,
What about, trying to think the RV park? So I.
okay, I'm going to call the meeting back to order, and I believe, Rachel, we have a minute or two to go, correct?
Correct.
Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Rachel there. Heidi, are you able to hear us?
I am able to hear you. Hopefully you're all able to hear me.
Okay. Rachel, you can start when you're ready.
Thank you, Chairman Kennedy, and also thank you, Heidi, for joining the city of Soldovia for the first round of interviews for the city manager position. We have Chairman John Kennedy and council members Bobby Sweat, Harmony Payton, Ashley Keithley, and Vivian Rojas in attendance this evening. For the interview, there will be 12 questions and you will be allotted 30 minutes to answer those questions. I will have a timer on for 25 minutes, so when you hear the timer go off, there will be 5 minutes remaining for your interview. Do you have any questions before we begin?
No, let's get this started.
Sounds good. Let me get the first question up here and start the timer. So question number 1, What do you know about Soldovia and how do you see yourself adapting to this type of community?
Well, Seldovia is my hometown and community. I've been raising my kids here for the last 15 years, and I plan to continue raising my kids here. I've worked a variety of roles in various organizations in the community, from waiting tables to subbing at the Head Start program. I worked for SVT for 5.5 years and at the city for 5.5 years. So I'm pretty well versed with interacting of all walks of life. I'm pretty integrated in the community. I don't think that'll be an issue.
Thank you. Question number 2, have you reviewed our annual budget? And if yes, what is your impression of our financial condition?
I am extremely familiar with the budget and have a firsthand basis with it, or I'm on a firsthand basis with it. I've helped implement recent water and sewer utility rate changes. I know that the city is in a deficit in the general fund and the harbor special revenue fund, but also that the council and city administration have taken great steps in recent years to remedy this issue. And I do believe as long as those strides continue and there's guidance and forethought and the vision of the future the vision of the community going forward, that the city will be able to remedy that deficit and be in a good place here in the next several years.
Thank you, Heidi. Question number 3, how has your prior work and education helped you prepare for this job? Please describe a major accomplishment.
Well, I've worked in this position here at the city for 5.5 years. I've helped implement various policies and procedures. Like I said, worked firsthand on the budget. I've been through software changes, city manager and staff transitions, COVID, several tsunami warnings, to where I was the acting city manager. I've been through audits all 5 years. I'm proud to have received the Emerging Municipal Leader of the Year award through the Alaska Municipal League last year. And I'm very proactive in my Alaska Association of Municipal Clerks. But the biggest accomplishment, or the major accomplishment I'd have to share for me, was the implementation of a new records management system. It hasn't been completed yet. There are still boxes that need to be labeled, but upon coming in and finding several years of files that just needed to go through the retention system or have a retention system in place for what to keep and when, inventorying what was there, and making it through that process, I think was a really major step and goal for the city. And I hope that it's something that will continue on for years, that it'll be an easy process, that future employees will know how to quickly identify where files are, how they're kept, how to archive files, and then also how to create a destruction log for those that when it's time for them to be disposed of.
Thank you, Heidi. Question number 4. What do you view as the most important quality a city manager should possess and why?
Well, I think that has to be effective communication, really 100%. It's being able to listen, use critical thinking skills, and know when to respond, and also when to wait for a response. This job is all about people. It's a lot of interaction with the public, with staff, with council, with various other organizations, networking. I've seen a huge change in the last couple of years in the city with being able to network and find support and provide support outside of the city. And it's, I think, been really valuable for the organization to be able to have those opportunities. And it really does come down to that effective communication.
Okay. Question number 5. In your opinion, what role should the administrator have in the community?
Well, it helps, I think, when it's their home, when they shop here at the local grocery store, they use local services, they attend community events of interest. It doesn't have to be all events, but there are so many different things happening in the community for all types of people and interests, and to be involved and make those connections and have those relationships. That's how you get to know where the community's values and interests rest. Additionally, you're the liaison with those organizations and entities. As previously mentioned, you should be well versed in all things Seldovia. You don't have to be the headpiece. I think that's really the council that's there to uplift and implement those policies for the city, or be the policymakers for the city. But they should really be well integrated into the community and have that deeper understanding of the community's wants and desires.
Thank you, Heidi. We're now on to question 6, and we're halfway through the interview questions. So question 6, please describe your understanding of the state's economic position and how that relates to small communities such as ours. Please correlate your response to how you view the role of city government in keeping the cost of government down while providing essential services to residents.
That's a really interesting question. I think for years, the state has been telling local communities, small communities, that they just don't have the funds. They've been warning communities that the local community assistance program or community assistance funds are going to go away, that communities need to not rely on assistance from the state moving forward because of the state's economic position. But recently there's been a shift with all this infrastructure funding coming in. There's so much availability of funds, and it's being funneled through the state that I think that they're now more in a position to help when it comes to certain infrastructure projects, and not necessarily revenue replacement or funding, but they've got broadband happening, they've got road maintenance happening. I mean, there are a lot of pockets of funding available through the state currently, and the city should be positioning itself to receive any of that applicable assistance that they can, especially in reference to aging infrastructure like water, sewer, buildings, roads. I mean, it's out there. It takes time and resources to be able to receive it, but while also being cognizant that this isn't going to last forever. And certainly the city needs to find a way to stand on its own 2 feet in the coming years.
Thank you, Heidi. Question 7, please tell us about one mistake you made in a previous job and how you handled it.
Oh, I've made several. One mistake I've made in this current position at the city is as the special projects coordinator was when I was analyzing and presenting sales tax figures during the city council's recent discussions about putting a proposition to the taxpayer or to the voters to increase the sales tax by 2%. And while I've done several analyses over time, I was using the sales tax revenues received number versus gross sales to calculate that 2% figure. And it was a lot lower than what was estimated. And I knew something didn't look right. I did ask for coworkers to double check, and I couldn't figure it out, but there was there just wasn't something right. We presented it, I presented it. Somebody else provided feedback that it just didn't look right. It took me a while going back over it, doing a deep dive. I really started the process all over and trying to analyze why the number was so low. And then it hit me, and I realized that my error was just that I was using 2% of the revenues, the sales tax revenues, and not the overall sales tax, gross sales tax. So with that, I had to, own up to my mistake, let my boss know, let other various entities know. I asked other people in the office again to step in, and other entities, the Kenai Peninsula Borough, to double check my math one more time. Had to present again to the council and let them know where I went wrong. And needless to say, I am very, very cautious now with any analyzing that I've done since, just double and triple checking the data, and always, being cognizant of that gross sales versus revenues. And I would just, it's important, I think, to know that we all do make mistakes, and we're anybody in this position is going to make a mistake, but being able to be upfront about it, be honest, remedy it, cure it. There's typically always methods to help move forward in a corrective manner, but also using those supports that are built in place and reaching out to those other networks and organizations. That's a huge lesson I've learned over the last couple of years, that it's probably the most valuable lesson, that we're not necessarily alone, and there is a lot of support out there if you're willing to reach out for it. And it definitely helps bring the community up as a whole, and elevates the community, and gives a bigger voice, which is a very valuable lesson out of that, and working here for the last couple of years.
Thank you, Heidi. Question number 8, how do you educate, encourage, and motivate your staff?
Oh, well, training and knowledge sharing are huge. I'm a big supporter of training and being able to go out and get those different educational opportunities, and then ensuring bringing them back, putting it into an action plan. That's something in my clerk's organization that we have to do, is a knowledge transfer action plan, where we talk about those steps. How are you going to implement them? How are you going to put them into your work? And then more so, how do you share that back with your fellow coworkers? Because our organization is so small, there isn't one department that works on its own. Everybody cross trains, they work together, and being able to share that knowledge and training really, really makes a difference. For encouragement, I really do believe it's the little things, showing appreciation and noticing contributions of your coworkers and staff throughout their day, throughout the business. Hey, you guys did a good job, or I noticed this. What if we looked at it this way? Just really kind of having that openness to communicate about where everybody's at during their day and during their week. It can be as simple as just a check-in in the morning, like, hey, how's it going? How's your evening? What's your plan for today? How can I help? Do you need assistance with anything? Do you need your door closed for several hours so that you can focus? Are you digging a water leak so you need no communication so that you can focus on that task? Do you need support with somebody to come out and help inventory, or just having that open flow of communication that shows that you're there and receptive, what's happening, but you're also not micromanaging. They have the opportunity to share with you their visions and wants, and really just that everybody can be on the same page. I think that can be a big breakdown in a hurry, is when some people know bits and pieces of the story. Obviously, there's going to be cases where not everybody needs to know everything, but for the most part, if something's happening, if there's a change, there's a transition, a project that's occurring, hey, there's going to be an audit next month, I really need to buckle down and focus for the next week and a half. Those are things that can be communicated throughout the organization to be able to show that support and make sure that everybody is there to help uplift each other. And really that's what it's about, is the team, and making sure that the team has what they need.
Okay, question 9. Please describe your experiences with grant writing and management of grants.
Well, this is one area I can say I don't have a lot of experience. I've assisted and supported with several grants over the last couple of years, but I haven't really, it's always been on the periphery. I've never written a grant. I've never had to, have ownership or put all the pieces of the puzzle together for a grant. It's just an analysis here, a project there, narratives here and there, pieces. But I have seen several grants be submitted. I'm currently helping manage the CDBG grant for the multipurpose building during the transition, which is fairly simple at the moment. Thankfully, even our finance officer has commented on how simple it's been to work with the state. It's just more the coordinating with the contractors themselves. What I am well versed in is future grant opportunities. I went to a broadband summit in the August of 2022, so just a couple of months ago, which was an amazing opportunity to hear from the federal government and federal agencies about the importance of broadband, that it was going to be our generation's expansion, similar to how previous generations had power or telephones. Ours was going to be broadband. And with that, I've also studied infrastructure funding coming down through the pike. I've created a document of future opportunities for the city to pursue and to keep an eye on. I'm pretty confident that I could write a grant and will write a grant, regardless of what happens here tonight, probably in the near future. And that, again, I lean back on those supports and the training. There's a lot of webinars that are always coming through on upcoming opportunities, being able to reach out to those granting authorities and agencies to inquire about any questions there might be. Just definitely soaking in all things grant at this point in time in my career. So while the experience is new, I definitely see a lot of growth coming in the future.
Thank you, Heidi. Question 10. What do you hope to accomplish in your first year as city manager and your 5th year? Please provide a 5-year outlook for yourself and for Seldovia.
Council priorities. Council priorities are my priorities. I think it's such an important vision for the city and the community moving forward. Along with that is having a VPSO come online, securing a grant for Jack Loft in the small boat harbor. The dam needs maintenance and repair. The city dock approach needs repair. Be great to see a direction for the value added building, a new refuse truck, lots more marketing and tourism. It really seems that having that tourism industry grow and blossom in this community is the direction that we're leaning in. And so with that, providing more support for local businesses, for the chamber, continuing to work on regional priorities with Homer, the city of Homer, and Seldovia Village Tribe, offering that volunteer support, because the community does really grow on volunteers, or volunteers is what supports the community. And broadband, it'd be amazing to see broadband come. That's happening up in the next 5 years, and that's an opportunity really that the community cannot miss. That's so key and pivotal for any future work, remote work, education, telehealth. I mean, it's pivotal. Water and sewer grants coming up in the future, and having sewer treatment alternatives upgraded, and sewer lines, water distribution lines. I think that there's a lot of amazing opportunity coming for the city, and I really, really don't want the community to miss out. So I above all, that's my big hope. And the first year, it's just going to be driving as hard as we can towards those goals where we're at. There's been a good pace set in the last couple of years, and to continue that pace forward, keeping all those pots in the fire, all those communications open, not missing those opportunities. By the 5th year, I would love to have seen the majority of this list accomplished. And I know that sounds maybe huge. Hopefully it doesn't sound too unrealistic. I really think this is the city's opportunity, and that they need to grab at it. For myself, I would like to accomplish all of those things, but also on a personal level, complete my degree and my education, and continue my personal growth to better serve the city. I don't intend on going anywhere. This is, like I said, this is my community where I'm raising my family and children. But in the event that is the case, then I want to make sure that we have a team here that's well supported, and a great policies, procedures, documentation that helps future staff go forward for a long time to come.
Thank you, Heidi. Question number 11. What are your expectations of the governing body in relation to yourself and other staff?
Well, expectations of the governing body in relation to myself is, I think we should have a close working relationship. The city manager position should be an open door. Council should be able to come in and bring any ideas or information, issues, anything that they need to have support on, or just discuss. That should come through the city manager office. They're the policy makers, the city manager is the implementer. It's their job, the city manager's job, to support that vision of the council as the public servants who are hopefully out there hearing from the constituents on, what they want, what they need. They're the body that speaks for the whole. And as a city manager, it's your job to provide that implementation. So I would really hope that relationship was open and accessible, and that while that's still there, there's that drive for the body as a whole. It's the direction is provided by the council as an entirety, and is set through the priorities and the budget, and those revolving discussions continue to happen to help really have a thriving government and a thriving system that works. With city staff, that's continuing to provide that education, continuing to provide that support, motivation. Again, still having the open door, the time to see what their needs are, what their vision is. They're on the ground, they're seeing things that maybe others aren't seeing, why things do and do not work within the city, and helping really to support them because ultimately human resources are what's going to help make those policies move forward. That's what's going to drive the city into the future. So I guess in my relation to the council and staff is that I am a people-oriented person, and that's my goal, is to be able to work closely with everybody involved and be a conduit between the two.
Thank you, Heidi. And while you were speaking, the 25-minute alarm went off, so we have just a little under 4 minutes remaining, but we're on our last question, which is question 12. Is there anything else you'd like us to know before we conclude this interview?
I just want to reiterate that this is my home and my community, that I love my job and I love working for the city. I'm very civic minded, very community oriented, and I strive in everything that I do in my position to do what is best for the community. I try to always keep that in mind, the community as a whole, and that can be hard when you have things coming from you from all directions. But I really believe in this community, and regardless of the outcome of this evening and during this transition, I wholeheartedly believe that the council has the same goals and will make the right choice. No matter what that is, I'm just here to help facilitate whatever individuals come into any city position, and really help support that this is a great team and place to work for, a great atmosphere, that we're providing great services. We're open to the public, we're transparent, we have integrity. I mean, I'll continue to work for those things no matter what capacity I'm in. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time to hear from me, and I really enjoy working for this organization and look forward to continuing to work here for many years to come.
Thank you, Heidi, so much. We'll be in touch with you soon.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Okay, Rachel, we got a few more minutes here. We got 15 minutes, or is it half an hour?
So
7?
Chairman Kennedy, our next interview is 7:45, so just about a little. Yep.
Okay. We'll take a break here for 5 minutes, and let's make it 7 minutes and we'll be back.
Okay, sounds good.
Just checking with you, Rachel. Are you back there? We have 4 minutes to go.
Yes, Chairman Kennedy, I am back and it looks like our next applicant is on. So let me promote them here.
Okay.
Hey, John, are you there and can you hear us okay?
Yes, I
I
can.
am. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Wonderful.
Wrong John.
What-
We
I
can
don't know
hear
if you were
you
looking for
loud and
John.
clear, John.
Okay, all right.
Well, thank you so much for joining the City of Seldovia for the first round of interviews for the city manager position. We have Chairman John Kennedy and council members Bobby Sweat, Harmony Payton, Ashley Keithley, and Vivian Rojas in attendance this evening. For the interview, there will be 12 questions and you will be allotted 30 minutes to answer those questions. I will have a timer on for 25 minutes, so when you hear the timer go off, there will be 5 minutes remaining for your interview. Do you have any questions for us before we begin?
Nope.
Okay, here, let me get my timer started. Okay, so question number 1, what do you know about Seldovia and how do you see yourself adapting to this type of community?
Well, Seldovia is a small, close-knit community, which is made up of a group of hardworking people. The history of Seldovia goes back into the early 1800s as a stop-off for people who were traveling to different areas in Alaska, and it's just been a hub ever since then. You know, as time progressed, with the development of other larger cities, some of those industries moved away. Within that close-knit community, you have, you know, just as with each council member, it's not just one job, but everybody there has many, many hats that they wear, that they work to function together as a community to better everyone, and for businesses and residents, and to make a greater life for the people who call Seldovia home. I see myself fitting into that very well because my history and background has always had me wearing many hats, and when it comes to work and getting things done in service, I'm not afraid to roll up my sleeves, get my hands dirty, and work in alongside my partners to help achieve a better community. And I feel that my upbringing as an Alaskan has provided me with the values and the work ethic and the stick-to-itiveness to be successful there.
Thank you, John. Question number 2, have you reviewed our annual budget? And if yes, what is your impression of our financial condition?
I have reviewed the annual budget, and it was good to see that it was what was proposed as a zero-based budget, or a balanced budget. As I look at it and the financial condition of it, it's in some, you know, it presents many challenges for someone that's coming in. I know that it's fairly reliant upon federal funding as we're waiting for the federal government to pass their budget for the, you know, I think it's about 1.3 million in earmarked funds, you know, to help out with water and sewer and road maintenance there with that. But, you know, as with each challenge, you know, we need to, I know the council is working on trying to find different ways to bring in revenue to raise those so that we have other means of generating funds other than raising taxes. And the, you know, the challenges that are there are not going away, but the council has come up with some very good ideas with how to deal with those and making up shortcomings that are happening with the Jackaloff dock, to try to get that back in working order, and some of the other funds to try to replace some of the equipment that's aging And as we move forward, just, having an open mind to, to explore new things. I think that, with the continued tightening of the belt of the financial constraints of the city and using some of the continued creative thinking that Alaskans always have, I think we'll be able to overcome these budget woes and put together a strong budget that is, able to, instead of being reactive in nature, be proactive and start addressing some of the other needs that are available.
Thank you, John. Question 3. How has your prior work and education helped you prepare for this job? Please describe a major accomplishment.
Well, my job history has provided me many different hats, like I said. As I come from a law enforcement background, I said I was born and raised Alaskan, and those values are instilled in me and continued through my professional life. As a sergeant in a larger agency in California, I am responsible for many different activities, and a sergeant then is not just a typical, first line manager. I've been doing management roles since I was actually an officer. I've done many grants, over 15 grants that I can just remember off the top of my head, total over $7 million in funds and services available to our citizens. As being a grant writer, a grant administrator, and a grant manager, I'm familiar with all of those. One of the most recent ones was a body cam grant, which we received. We were one of only, this was a nationwide competition, one of only 11 in the nation of that size to receive that. So it was big. And throughout that time, many different management and leadership opportunities, not just in my professional life, but in my volunteer and personal life too. Being Rotary Club president here, at the time we had 212 members of that club, all business leaders and leaders within our community, and trying to be a leader among leaders is not always an easy thing. So in working and utilizing my training and experience and the abilities to move with the ebbs and flows of each leadership opportunity, was able to successfully manage that role and continue to serve as a member of Rotary and a mentor to others for that. Having the administrative background that I have with grant writing and teaching for over 20 years, along with my my roles in public service, this has allowed me to bring a community together, work with different entities. I've had to work with members of Congress to get our, to be successful with our grants, and other leaders in our political climate here, having to work with those, reaching across the table and bringing things together to bring our communities stronger. So I believe that in all of these things, it's just kind of a quick overview, along with the many hats. What's not listed on there is, I have a 100-ton master's license, so I'm used to the shipping side of things too. And, I've spent time working in a volunteer firefight, as a volunteer EMT for the fire department in Girdwood many years ago. But I'm familiar with how the community works together, how the city works, how the budget is put together, how to implement that budget, but most importantly, how to use and reach out to other entities around us to capitalize on our strengths together to get us both greater funding.
Thank you, John. Question 4. What do you view as the most important quality a city manager should possess, and why?
I think first and foremost, the city manager needs to be a leader, and it's important because at different times, that's going to be relied upon. Now, it's the goal of the city manager, and their job is to, bring forward the desires and the wants of the council which reflects the citizens and the community. So being a leader is knowing where those things are at, what needs to be done. If you don't have those answers, where to find them. And, leadership is not just being, strong enough to step forward when it's time to, but also humble enough to step back and allow others in their positions to shine and allow their gifts to come through. And it's through all of those things of bringing the community together, working with the resources that we have, utilizing the people and their gifts, which will, make it a successful transition into that role.
Okay, question 5. In your opinion, what role should the administrator have in the community?
Well, I think first and foremost is to be a member of that community. It's not just a position, especially in a community such as Seldovia, that it's not just an office position. I view myself, in that role and this is how I would be, as a member of that community, out there working alongside the rest of the community members, where people know me as John. They know that with the values that I was brought up with, if they need a hand with something, doesn't matter what it is, they can reach out to me and I'll help how I can. It's truly, taking the time to roll up your sleeves, getting in there with your neighbor, working to develop and strengthen that community, and a time stepping away from that and, being that person who will reach out to other communities, to our elected officials when it's time to bring us forward to try to help our citizens in our community be able to step in that role as well. But first and foremost is being a member of that community.
Okay. Question 6, and we're halfway through the interview questions. Please describe your understanding of the state's economic position and how that relates to small communities such as ours. Please correlate your response to how you view the role of city government in keeping the cost of government down while providing essential services to residents.
Well, as the state puts together its budget, we rely on a portion of that to be able to maintain some of the structures that we have and the infrastructure that we have going. And so in this case, we're relying on with the requests that have been earmarked funds that have been requested for the budget. That's we're very reliant on that at this point to maintain the water and to increase the opportunities there for water and sewer. But as we keep going, we right now are able to establish, as I look and I reflect upon the budget, we are able to have a balanced budget with what we have. And so as we work forward in trying to maintain our services, for the meantime, we are able to sustain. However, as things depreciate over time and they break down, we're having some challenges right now to be able to, increase the revenue to be able to address those. So as part of that, I think it's important that, and I know the council is working on this, and so it's important for me as in that role is to work together with each council member individually and as a whole to figure out and work on ways along with the other team members of how we can increase revenue and for me make those things happen and work to improve our tax base for Seldovia so we are not as reliant upon the state for these things. Now, as things go with small cities over time, this is not an uncommon problem. a tax base for remote communities is very difficult to maintain when you don't have a large presence of industry or others, since you're relying upon property taxes and sales tax. So we're not an uncommon territory, but what we do have is we have a lot of resources around us that we can utilize to improve our tax base and to decrease reliance upon the state.
Thank you, John. Question 7. Please tell us about one mistake you made in a previous job and how you handled it.
You know, it's mistakes are never easy to discuss and talk about, but they are also, really good learning points. And there was a time that in my current role that I had received some information, and in asking about it, and asking the employee about what had happened and what the issue was, it was very clear that it did not happen in that way. And more importantly, it was one of those that they kind of questioned me about it, as why would you think I would do that? And it wasn't that, it was a matter of, you have to follow up, you have to do that. But had I looked a little bit further, and this has been years and years ago, it was a good lesson for me. I was a new supervisor. I would have had the answer without having to ask him. And, as I learned from that is, make sure you have everything nailed down, make sure you know your answers before you start asking your questions. That's something that I've lived to this day, but also it was an important enough lesson that here almost over 10 years ago, that still sticks with me. And I'll never forget that. And I pass that along to new people that I train is make sure you have all your answers.
Okay, question 8. How do you educate, encourage, and motivate your staff?
Oh, great question. You know what? This is an area that I really enjoy. It's because, each individual is different, and we all bring our own strengths and weaknesses to the table, but we also bring our own languages to the table and what motivates us. So part of that is learning, the staff and learning who they are and finding out what motivates them, what interests them, and helping them. Everybody has dreams that they want to achieve and that they want to do. So it's important to find out, what their language is, learn to speak it, and be able to motivate them using that language. So if it's necessary to, if they want new opportunities or they want to learn how to do new things, we provide them those opportunities. We praise them for the work that they do. And especially in this type of community, everybody's got such a broad reach and such a broad talent base that it's, we have a lot of gifted individuals that are working there, and it's important to recognize them absolutely for the work that they do and the successes that we have as a team because of that.
Thank you, John. Question 9, please describe your experiences with grant writing and management of grants.
Over my career, I was initially forced to take on the role of grant writer, which I fought earnestly, but to no avail. I wound up having to write my first grant. And as a result of that, I couldn't be more thankful because I am the department go-to for grants. Other agencies will come to me for that, for federal, state, and local grants and private monies. I have over 25 years experience in grant writing now, and been very successful in that. Like I've mentioned before, over 15 projects that I can think of right off the top of my head, with over $7,000 in benefits. I teach others how to manage, administer, and write grants. And that's probably the thing that I'm proudest of actually out of all that, is watching the success that others have and helping them on their journey as they're learning these. I'm very familiar with that. Most importantly, I'm familiar with the partnerships that are involved and the collaborative efforts that are necessary to, especially in today's time, to make grants work. We have a lot of collaborative opportunities there in Seldovia that are available, where the communities together, we can achieve more than we could individually. Those are the specialties that I have in that, is bringing those communities together and getting actually both or multiple entities more than what they asked for. So this is an area that I'm very, very comfortable with.
Thank you, John. Question 10. What do you hope to accomplish in your first year as city manager and your 5th year? Please provide a 5-year outlook for yourself and for Seldovia.
Well, in the first year, obviously I look forward to making the transition to moving there. I'm familiar with it and have been there. But in that first year is actually, learning the community, learning the council members, and spending that time to develop those relationships and learn what the priorities are of each, not just each council member, but my goal is to know each resident in that first year, meet them all, establish that relationship so that they know, who I am, and work towards, I will obviously start it towards working toward the goals that the council has set. And that first year, hopefully we will have received the monies from the state, the earmark fund, from the federal government for those earmarked projects. We'll be able to help get those rolling and get those done, as they are very, very needed. As we progress through time, continue to be an active member and see what other areas that I can help in, just as other Seldovians have, is to, work and feed the need as it comes up. So I look to see what those other roles could be where I could help out and be a benefit. And in a 5-year plan, I would expect that all of our major council priorities and CIP projects that the council has done and set aside, those we'll be celebrating the completion of all of those, and looking forward to establishing by then what the next CIP programs are going to be, and how we can continue the successes that we would have built over the previous 4 years.
Thank you, John. And question 11, what are your expectations of the governing body in relation to yourself and other staff?
You mean by the governing body, by the city council?
Correct.
I think you said correct. Are you there?
Yes, yep, that's correct.
Oh, okay. The expectations, I believe that how it fits in is, what is the idea and what is the direction that the city is to go in. The council sets the pace, they set the tone, they set the desires, because they reflect the community. And I believe that, in that, the expectations, will be just exactly that. What is it that is wanted? And then I can look at the areas that I am familiar with, and the strengths that I bring, and working together with the council members and each individual one, as I mentioned before, but also as that team to meet those goals. And I think the expectations of the staff are that we meet those expectations, and so we work together, utilizing everybody's strengths, shoring each other up where we need to, and assisting them all as we go to make sure that the community's needs are met.
Thank you, John. And our last question is question 12. Is there anything else you'd like us to know before we conclude this interview?
Yes, I'm just so honored and humbled to be included in the first rounds of interviews for city manager. You know, as I've been preparing for this, I've looked over my life. Actually, is, you know, my life in Alaska began as well before I came along. As my dad wrote the Constitution for statehood, and he was a big part of that. And he obviously, when I came along later on, he's the one who brought me down in the Kenai Peninsula. And you know, I some of my fondest memories are down there. And so, as I look towards, moving forward, my upbringing, from working in a volunteer fire department, as an EMT at one point, to, working for Holland America running ships, the small day boats that they have, and moving up into my professional capacity here, which has prepared me both administratively, prepared me well for the management needs that are there, has provided me the opportunity for taking personnel action for hiring and, and terminating others for those recommendations. Although it's not something we want to do, and it's not something that I ever like to do, it's one of those that is sometimes necessary. But these decisions, are not easy ones. The opportunity to work and do so many different grants and work with so many different other folks, as I think I put in my resume, working as a leader in the communications division. Working in there, I was the only sworn one to go in there and work in that, but to build up those people's strengths, to develop leaders in that community, and to help them teach others was incredible. And just everything and the exposure over my time through my professional life, my education, having a master's degree in marriage and family therapy, grant writing opportunities, my community service, my interest, and just my love of Alaska. And I match the council's values as I look at those, I see what they are. Those all hit home to me. Committed to our resources, having the recreational opportunities available to us, being a small community that sustains itself, having a close-knit team unity, and just enjoying that remote lifestyle that's there. Those are all things that strike a chord with me. I'm just a guy that wants to come home and continue to serve in a community that I love and grew up in. And I believe that because of these things, because of my training, my education, my experience, I will be an asset to others who can come in terms of whoever the new police chief is, be able to help them at times if they need it, provide them different perspectives, and be a good support for them as they need it, and for the others that are there to learn in the different functions and to be able to serve in this capacity to the best of my ability. I thank you so much for this opportunity. Again, I am humbled and thankful to be there and to be here talking with you now. And I hope to have the opportunity to meet with you further in the future.
Thank you, John. We will be in touch with you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Rachel, this concludes our interviews tonight. Does anybody have any questions before we proceed? Referring to that, I was referring to that as well, yes. Any members of the public have any questions before we proceed?
I don't see any hands raised at this time, and I think we'll just be going down through the agenda on agenda item N.
Okay. City So we'll finish with that. City managers report, none. Informal items not requiring action, none. And item P, executive session.
Mr. Chairman,
Bobby, yes?
I move to enter into executive session pursuant to Alaska statutes 44, 62, 31 for matters, subjects that tend to prejudice the reputation and character of any person, provided the person may request a public discussion for the city manager candidate deliberation and invite in Rachel Freelander.
I'll
Okay.
second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. We can move to any further discussion or questions before we proceed with a vote. Okay, Peyton,
Aye.
Keithley,
Aye.
Sweat,
Aye.
Rojas.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. So we need to sign out and back in.